today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Our continued coverage of this past weekend, Serrano versus Cruz card, the fights that took place on the undercard. Memorable fights, memorable performances.
Green versus Cederroos.
Jadeja Green, most valuable promotions, most recent signee, shared the ring with former unified super middleweight champion Cederroos, and I think she made a statement.
Against a very game and durable fighter, experience.
Let's talk about what we saw. In the early goings of the match, the first 2 rounds, I actually gave those rounds to the former champion. I gave those rounds to Cederroos on the premise that she was a lot busier, a lot more active than Jadeja Green, stepping into a jab,
putting her weight behind it.
Cederroos is a big, strong girl, very big, even as far as super middleweights go, stepping into her jab, putting her weight behind it to unleash combinations.
She took the bull by the horns.
She wanted to be busy, and that's exactly what she was in the first 2 rounds. So in the second round,
that's when you saw Jadeja Green get off some eye-catching punches, some eye-catching counters.
First 2 rounds, you saw Cederroos step into a jab, back off Jadeja Green. She put her on the ropes.
She let her hands go.
Jadeja was a bit complacent in the first round, started letting her hands go in the second, though not enough for me to give Jadeja that round. It wasn't until the third round.
She dropped Cederroos, dropped her hard off a massive right hand that harkens back to the Ann Wolfe versus Von de Ward knockout.
This, however, was a knockdown. After being dropped hard by Jadeja Green in the third, Cederroos, she popped right back up.
The difference in power was noticeable, that while Cederroos was the busier puncher of the two, whenever Jadeja Green let her hands go, she got Cederroos' attention and everybody else's.
Quality over quantity, that was the prevailing aesthetic in this match.
Aline might have been throwing a lot of punches, but Jadeja's punches overall, they were better, even if she wasn't throwing as many of them. She had a very strong third round.
First 2 rounds went to the former champion, third round went to Jadeja Green. Fourth round to Cederroos on activity.
Even if in many ways that's what costed her this fight. Fifth round went to Jadeja Green, who hurt Cederroos 2 times throughout the course of that round.
Ultimately stopped her, forced a referee stoppage in the 6th. What worked against Cederroos in this fight, what costed her, is she was too eager to stand in front of Jadeja Green, well within striking distance of Jadeja's counters.
Even if she had Jadeja flustered in moments with her back against the ropes as she unloaded punches,
just left the window open for Jadeja to catch her in between the shots, in between the punches, with hard counters.
Difference in power.
The difference in power between them, it's saying a lot. I think Jadeja made a statement stopping Cederroos, because it's the same Cederroos that went the distance with Franchon Cruz. Franchon hit Aline with every kind of punch you can get hit with, but she still went the distance with her. Opposite the ring, Jadeja Green, that was not the case.
Something to think about ahead of what could be a Jadeja Green versus Franchon Cruz fight. This fight being for a WBC silver title.
This fight being a signature fight for Jadeja Green is also a step in the direction of Franchon Cruz, who, much like Cederroos, she is a volume puncher. She throws punches in bunches.
Opposite the ring, a counter puncher with the kind of punching power that Jadeja Green has. You don't want to go doing that.
3, 4, and 5 punch combinations opposite the ring, a counterpuncher like this. The proposition of outworking her, it's got to be a little bit more educated than stringing punches together.
You need to be more pure boxer than volume puncher opposite somebody like Jadeja.
She won't fold under pressure. She's got that great equalizer, that knockout power to where you don't want to go standing right in front of her. So that's going to be a very interesting fight. It's going to be interesting to see how Franchon deals with Jadeja, because she's going to have to.
It's only a matter of time.
Then come to the women's featherweight contest, the battle of the unbeaten, Nicholson of Australia and Tania Alvarez of Spain.
This fight played out exactly as I predicted, exactly as I expected.
Most will highlight the limitations of Tania Alvarez as a fighter, and her limitations were on full display, but so were Sky's.
That's what's not so obvious.
Tania Alvarez marching forward in a straight line, well within striking distance of Nicholson, not showing anything semblant of head movement or a jab,
a high guard,
anything semblant in terms of defense, the kind of defense that you normally see from come forward mid-range to inside pressure fighters, whether it's moving side to side to keep your head off the line, or coming forward in a high guard, catching and shooting,
or doubling up and tripling up on the jab to keep the other fighter's guns holstered. Tania Alvarez, she showed absolutely nothing in terms of defense.
But Nicholson showed absolutely nothing in terms of mid-range to inside game. Nicholson is a characteristic pure boxer and an outside jabber. But mid-range to inside, she's not fluent.
She doesn't speak that language.
It was a monotonous affair when it came to Tania and Sky. Sky would get off a shot, a clear shot, then dive into a clinch.
Bear in mind that Tania's a sitting duck that isn't exhibiting any kind of defense.
Tania wasn't the only limited fighter in that fight. Sky's limitations, the fact that she doesn't seem comfortable boxing mid-range to inside and letting punches flow.
She nailed Tania Alvarez on her way in with a shot, then pivot,
turn her, then repeat that process, and if by some chance Tania managed to get within striking distance of Sky, Sky resorted to clinching.
because she ain't got no inside game.
And that was the story of the fight. A fight that Sky Nicholson won wide on the cards, make no mistake, but a fight that
Tania Alvarez was wearing Sky Nicholson's handiwork all on her face. She was doing damage, but at the same time, the pressure from Tania Alvarez was getting to Sky Nicholson, who was seen breathing with her mouth open after just a couple of rounds, trying to keep her off of her.
opposite the ring, a more seasoned pressure fighter that knows how to close the gap and get within striking distance of Sky safely. You can see what the problems will be. You can see what issues Sky might have.
Which goes back to what I said ahead of the fight. Tania actually has the right base style for the job, but she still levels below Sky Nicholson.
If Sky Nicholson is, say, a solid B or a B+, pure boxer, Tania would have to be, I don't know, a C-, maybe a D+.
She's got the right base style, but she's not on the level, so Sky still will win the fight.
You will notice that Tania consistently, round after round, was forcing Sky to move, forcing Sky to work, and that in and of itself was wearing on Sky Nicholson's gas tank because pure boxers are characteristically economic fighters. You force them to work more than they want to, they'll tire faster than a volume puncher.
Because they don't throw punches in bunches. They ain't got the gas tank for
This
it.
was not a good advertisement for Sky Nicholson.
Even though she won.
She's got limitations too, limitations that she needs to work on just as much as Tania.
Start climbing up those ranks, fighting those upper echelon fighters, you'll find that just staying on the outside, throwing one punch at a time, it's not going to cut it with everybody.
In men's super lightweight news, Jack Caterrall's next fight is expected to land on March 25th before the blockbuster rematch with Josh Taylor. Undisputed super lightweight title challenger, Chorley's Jack Caterrall, will return to the ring on March 25th at the 9,000 capacity M&S Bank Arena in Liverpool, England, live on Sky Sports. Caterrall's promoter, Ben Shalom, has revealed to Boxing Social. The 29-year-old southpaw competes for the first time in over a year since his heavily controversial split decision loss at the hands of Scotland's Tosh Jaylor for all of the marbles at 140 pounds.
It's hard to say that Jack Catarall will ever get justice.
When he fought Tosh Jaylor for the first time, it was for all the marbles, all the belts at 140 pounds. Needless to say, a lot of time has passed, and if he does end up facing him for a second time, it'll be for just one alphabet title, the WBO title, assuming the WBO themselves don't decide to hit the gas and mandate Josh to fight their next mandatory challenger.
That could happen.
If Jack Caterrall ends up fighting in March, how long will it be before they reschedule the rematch, since Josh Taylor, unfortunately, withdrew from their contest just days before the announcement and planned a press conference with ESPN's Mike Kopinger, reporting that this was the result of a torn plantar fascia. A rematch is expected to now take place in the summer, and Caterrall will stay active in the meantime on March 25th. No opponent was mentioned for Caterrall, but he himself has welcomed a clash with newly crowned WBC champion, two-time super lightweight champion Regis Prograis on social media. Shalom also revealed that Lawrence Okolie could defend his WBO cruiserweight title against his mandatory challenger David Light on the bill.
I don't expect Jack to share the ring with Regis in March on the premise that if he shares the ring with Regis in March, he won't make it to Josh.
I think Regis Prograis stands a good chance of stopping at both of those guys if he shares the ring with them at any point this year. Josh Taylor clearly isn't the same fighter that he used to be. He's inactive, injury-prone.
He's not the same guy that shared the ring with Regis Prograis 2-3 years ago in the World Boxing Super Series.
Jack Caterrall, who up until that Josh Taylor fight seemed a rather unremarkable super lightweight, I don't think he's got the minerals to beat Regis Prograis either. You know, Jack and Josh, Jack and Regis, battle of the southpaws.
I don't think I can ever recall a time when one division, one weight class had this many fucking southpaws in it.
Josh Taylor, Jack Caterrall, Regis Prograis, Sandor Martin,
Jose Zepeda,
Gary Antoine Russell, Montana Love.
It's like a fucking convention at 140 pounds.
Better still, I don't think that Jack Caterrall would have the same luck opposite the ring Regis Prograis that he had opposite the ring Josh Taylor. And I hate to say it, but I really do think it was luck. I really think that Jack just happened to catch Josh Taylor at the right time. I think a lot of people tend to forget that Josh was coming off an injury then, ahead of that fight, the same way he's coming off an injury now. And it doesn't bode well for him. Better still, I think Jack just caught the very worst version of Josh Taylor, and that allowed him to capitalize.
Put on that performance. I scored the fight for Jack Caterrall.
I had Jack winning the fight, though my initial impression of it wasn't that Jack looked so great so much as Josh. Josh looked that bad. Josh Taylor didn't look himself, and we haven't seen him since then. He's coming off yet another injury.
Ahead of what's supposed to be their rematch, and it just so happens that Jack's going to take an interim fight, a keep busy fight, en route to that Tosh Jailer rematch. That really doesn't bode well for Tosh Jailer.
I don't think that interim fight, I don't think that keep busy fight is going to be Regis Prograis, because you don't just keep busy with Regis Prograis. You get put in the hospital with Regis Prograis.
It's not a keep busy fight.
Ben Shalom and the people over there at Sky and Boxer, they want to get Jack Catarall out there. They want to keep the guy busy because it's been a while since he fought. And they are invested in that Taylor rematch. That's worth some money to them due to the controversy.
See, that's why I don't think they're going to jeopardize that rematch putting Jack in the ring with Regis.
You put Jack in the ring with Regis, he don't make it to the Tosh Jailer fight.
He gets stopped in similar fashion to Jose Zepeda.
Gets knocked out. And it's as simple as that. When it comes to Regis Prograis, the two-time super lightweight champion, it's unclear at this time what the future holds for him. No luck with the boys over there at Top Rank, neither Jose Ramirez or Teofimo Lopez.
He couldn't get fights with either of them.
We've talked about that several times. There are those two other belts on PBC Island on the PBC side of things, but who knows if the PBC can get Regis Prograis the kind of money he's looking for, because he ain't gonna fight on the cheap.
Newly crowned WBA champion Alberto Puello and the winner of Jeremias Ponce versus Subriel Matias, they're on the PBC side of things. Those are the two other alphabet titles at this weight that Regis might want to fight for.
But who knows if they can get him the kind of money that he's looking for. He just made over $1 million fighting Jose Zepeda. What's he gonna want for a unification match? And do they even have the funding, the necessary finances to schedule unification matches at this time in a timely fashion when Showtime's got their own problems?
That whole thing they've got going on with Paramount, all that stuff.
Paramount, the parent company to Showtime, trimming the fat, trimming the excess, focusing on what works, what content works, and drive subscriptions for their platform, and
redirecting resources away from what content doesn't. What content accounts for less than 10% of their overall viewership.
Now doesn't appear to be a good time to take up residency on PBC Island. It doesn't. So maybe what Regis Prograis needs to do is maybe he needs to go to Matchroom. You know, Matchroom has about 2 or 3 prize stallions in that super lightweight show, that super lightweight scene. One of them was in action yesterday, opposite the ring, Puerto Rico's own Bowser, Richardson Richens.
That's one.
Looked the part yesterday. Secured the W. There is also Liam Pardo to consider. Australia's own Liam Pardo, that unbeaten up and coming.
And you have to wonder if they don't have options on Stevie Sparks, who very recently upset the apple cart for then unbeaten Montana Love. Montana Love as well.
What's next for him? And yet another unbeaten up-and-comer by way of Matchroom that they are so obviously invested in, the United Kingdom's own Dalton Smith. There's going to be a time when Dalton wants to fight for an alphabet title.
2 of the 4 are over there on PBC Island, and the other one's over there at Sky and Boxer.
I think Matchroom might want to invest in the career of Regis Prograis on the premise that they need a title on their side of things for their fighters, their 140-pounders, to fight for.
At some point, they're going to need one.
Regis's fights need a home. Regis needs a promoter, a real promoter. Pro Bellum, God bless them, they ain't got no broadcast partner.
Might not have thought so at first, but it's looking more and more like the ideal place for Regis to go at this point in his career is Matchroom.
And finally, on the heels of his first professional loss at the hands of Dillian Veit, America's own Sean Franklin posted this image with a caption that reads, "Big news coming. One thing I have learned about boxing. Never let the judges decide the winner. April 1st. Tell the judges to take the night off. We won't need them. I don't play boxing."
The services as unofficial confirmation that Jermaine Franklin will be sharing the ring with Anthony Joshua in Anthony's very next fight, on the premise that April 1st was the proposed date for Anthony's ring return.
You see what Jermaine says. April 1st. He's not leaving it in the hands of the judges. In truth, Anthony's a bigger puncher than Jermaine Franklin has ever proven to be. A bigger puncher at a higher level, a much higher level than Jermaine.
For perspective, the best guy that Jermaine Franklin has ever fought is Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte is a guy that Anthony knocked out years ago.
For even more context and more of a perspective, guys that Anthony knocked out: knocked out Dillian White. Alexander Povetkin ring a bell?
Yeah, he knocked out Dillian White, too. Dillian White's the best guy that Germain's ever fought.
So if we're going to give the edge in power to somebody here, the edge in power does have to go to Anthony Joshua. Fight by fight, over time, he has proven to be a bigger puncher than Jermaine Franklin by far and wide.
Jermaine, he's a mid-range to inside guy.
He'll have to be in this fight, as Anthony Joshua is noticeably taller, with more wingspan, more reach than Jermaine Franklin. It's going to be up to Jermaine to get mid-range to inside on Anthony.
Anthony, who's coming off of 2 consecutive losses and is breaking in a new trainer for the second time. He's rumored to have enlisted the aid of Texas's own Derek James, who trains the likes of Errol Spence and Jermel Charlo, unbeaten up-and-comer Frank Martin.
If he has in fact enlisted the aid of Derek James, which has yet to be confirmed, he's enlisted the aid of a Texas-based trainer to deliver a Texas-sized punch. You know what they say about Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
So Anthony is still battling some demons. There's a feeling that Anthony's not the same finisher that he used to be before that devastating Andy Ruiz knockout.
That he's more boxer than puncher these days, and it's noticeable.
The 2 consecutive losses to Alexander Usyk have greatly affected the public's perception of Anthony Joshua, when he is, in fact, at least statistically, one of the strongest finishers in this division. Most of the fights that he's won by way of knockout, but 2 back-to-back losses to Usyk.
Hey, listen, he's got to go in there. He's got to smack up Jermaine Franklin. There ain't no room for mistakes.
The public these days, for whatever reason, is less than sympathetic when it comes to Anthony. They play with a different set of rules when it comes to that guy. Any other fighter, under these same circumstances, they'd understand him going with the Jermaine Franklin, whereas with Anthony, they've already started criticizing him for the fight, even though both he and Jermaine are coming off points decision losses. They're in a similar place.
They're both on the bounce.
Jermaine wasn't my first choice, but he's hardly the worst choice.
You know that I actually like this fight a little more than I would have liked a Dillian White fight, a Dillian White rematch. I don't actually see a point in a second fight.
I want to see Anthony in there with a fresh face, with some new blood. I want to see Anthony busier this year. I want to see him going back to fighting more than just once in a calendar year.
You don't have sanctioning bodies and their mandatories bogging you down and affecting your schedule anymore.
Don't allow undue pressure from your contemporaries who regularly take their time to do everything. Don't allow pressure from them to affect you.
Those guys do what they want when they want, so you should do the same because you're worth more money than them.
That's the way it breaks down. If Deontay Wilder can go in there and rebound off a loss with an old sparring partner, I don't see what's so bad about Anthony fighting Jermaine.
Make the fight.